All right, let's jump right in. Today we're talking about something pretty exciting. Pennsylvania's power grid is getting a major upgrade.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Big news.
Yeah, big news.
Yeah.
We've got this article here from T&D World, and it's all about FirstEnergy's plan to really revamp their infrastructure. What are your initial thoughts on that?
Well, the first thing that jumps out at me is just the scale of it. You know, FirstEnergy's Energize 365 initiative. It's a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
$26 billion to modernize the entire grid over the next few years.
Wow.
And it's not just about, fixing what's already there. It's about getting ready for what's coming next.
Yeah.
Future-proofing the power system.
$26 billion, though. That's a lot of money.
It is.
I mean, where's all that money coming from?
Right.
What does it mean for Pennsylvania's economy?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a mix of things, right? You've got company investments, you've got government funding, and there will probably be some adjustments to consumer rates.
Right.
But the economic impact of a project this size is enormous.
Yeah.
I mean, think about all the jobs that will be created just through the construction and then the ongoing maintenance, plus all the local businesses that'll be supplying materials and services. There's a real ripple effect that's going to be felt throughout the state's economy.
So this isn't just about wires and substations.
Yep.
This is about boosting the economy, too.
Exactly. Yeah, it's much bigger than that.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
And speaking of Pennsylvania specifically, it looks like they're getting a pretty big chunk of that investment.
Okay.
The Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission, they go by PUC.
Gotcha.
They've given the green light to FirstEnergy's long-term infrastructure improvement plan.
Okay.
LTIIP3.
LTIP3. Right?
What does it call it that?
Easy to remember.
Yeah. And that's almost $1.5 billion dedicated to improvements over the next 5 years.
So LTIP3, $1.5 billion for Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
But why is this plan in particular so important for the state's power grid?
Well, it's not like they're starting from scratch.
Okay.
It builds on what they've already been doing.
Mm-hmm.
The article actually mentions a 14% reduction in power outages since 2019.
Wow.
Because of the earlier phases of this plan.
So they're already seeing results.
Yeah, exactly. So they're not waiting for everything to fall apart before they take action.
Right. It's like ongoing maintenance instead of waiting for a total breakdown.
Exactly. Continuous improvement.
Okay.
And within Pennsylvania, the article specifically mentions two utilities.
Okay.
West Penn Power, they're getting $368 million.
Got it.
And Penelec is getting $538 million.
I was wondering about that. Why are those two getting so much attention?
Yeah, me too. I wonder if it has something to do with the specific infrastructure they have.
Yeah.
Or maybe the areas they serve.
Right. Maybe those areas have had more outages in the past.
Yeah, it could be.
Or maybe they're expecting a lot of growth.
Yeah, that's possible.
Maybe they're trying to attract new businesses or something.
Maybe, or a growing population,
Right.
More demand for electricity.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's related to bringing in more renewable energy.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Speaking of which, the article talks about some cool new tech upgrades.
Yeah.
Like automated reclosers and voltage regulation.
Right.
Can you explain what those are? What do they actually do?
Yeah, sure. So,
Let's start with the reclosers.
okay. Automated reclosers, they're like smart switches on the power lines.
Okay.
So if there's a fault, like a tree branch falls on a line, the recloser automatically shuts off power to that section.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, it isolates the problem.
Okay.
Then it tries to re-energize the line a few times to see if the fault is gone.
Mm-hmm.
If power is restored automatically and really quickly.
So it's like a self-healing system
Exactly.
for the power grid.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
I like that.
It's really cool technology.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then voltage regulation, that's about keeping the flow of electricity stable.
Okay.
So it's like a pressure valve, making sure the electricity is delivered at the correct voltage.
Got it.
That helps prevent things like flickering lights, damage to appliances, those annoying brownouts.
Yeah, nobody likes those.
No, they're the worst.
So the reclosers help prevent outages altogether.
Right.
And voltage regulation makes sure we have good quality power.
Exactly.
So it sounds like these upgrades are all about reliability and efficiency.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, how do those specific technologies contribute to system resilience? The article mentions that.
Great question.
Yeah.
System resilience is about being prepared for anything.
Okay.
And these technologies, they're key.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say there's a big storm and a tree limb comes down, takes out a power line.
Right.
An automated recloser can isolate that fault immediately.
Okay.
Prevents a much bigger outage from happening.
So even if there's damage, it's not as bad.
Exactly. The impact is minimized. And good voltage regulation helps the grid adjust to changing conditions.
Like what kind of conditions?
Well, like a sudden surge in demand during a heat wave.
Oh, yeah. Everyone's cranking the AC.
Right. Or a drop in solar power output when clouds roll in.
Interesting. So it's not just about everyday performance.
Nope.
It's about being able to handle those unexpected events.
Exactly. Being flexible and robust.
Okay, so these technologies are really important for that.
Absolutely.
And this ties back to one of the big goals of Energize 365, supporting clean energy in electric vehicles.
Right.
Because as we move toward more renewables and electric cars, the demand on the grid is going to change a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I imagine a stronger, more flexible grid is going to be crucial to make that transition smoothly.
You're absolutely right. But let's dig into that a little deeper.
Okay.
How does having a better grid actually enable things like clean energy and electric vehicles?
That's a great question. Let's talk about that. So we're talking about how a modernized power grid can actually help pave the way for more renewable energy and electric vehicles.
Right.
But it seems like a pretty big leap from fixing power lines to, like, saving the planet.
Yeah.
How do those two things connect?
Well, it all comes down to capacity and flexibility.
Okay.
Right now, our grid is mostly designed for large centralized power plants, you know, the ones that typically use fossil fuels.
Right.
But renewable sources like wind and solar, they're different.
Yeah, how so?
They're often spread out over a much wider area.
Okay.
And their output can fluctuate depending on the weather.
Right, you can't control when the sun shines or the wind blows.
Exactly. You can't just order up more sunshine or wind whenever you need it.
Makes sense.
So to really integrate those renewable sources effectively, the grid needs to become smarter.
Okay.
It needs to be able to handle those ups and downs, store excess power when it's available, and distribute it efficiently when it's needed.
So it's like upgrading from a one-size-fits-all system to something more tailored and responsive.
Exactly. Yeah.
And how do electric vehicles fit into this picture?
Well, imagine what happens when millions of people start plugging in their electric cars at the same time.
Oh, wow.
That's a massive surge in demand for electricity.
Yeah.
That could really strain the existing grid.
Yeah, especially during peak hours.
Right, exactly.
Like everyone getting home from work and plug in their cars.
Exactly. But a modernized grid with more capacity and smarter technology, that can handle that increased demand without overloading.
Okay.
It can also help manage the charging process.
Oh, so?
By encouraging people to charge their vehicles during off-peak hours.
Okay.
When electricity is more abundant and potentially even cheaper.
So it's not just about having enough power.
Right.
It's about using that power strategically.
Exactly.
So this grid modernization plan, it sounds like it's about way more than just convenience.
Yeah.
It's about creating a more sustainable energy system for the future.
Absolutely. It's about addressing climate change, reducing our reliance on fossil fuels.
Right.
And creating an energy infrastructure that's more resilient.
Okay.
You know, one that can adapt to changing conditions.
Speaking of the future, do you think these types of grid upgrades are going to become more common across the country?
I think so, yeah.
Is Pennsylvania kind of a trendsetter here?
Yeah, I think they are setting a precedent with this LTIP3.
Okay.
And I think we're going to see other states starting to follow their lead.
So it's not just a Pennsylvania issue.
Yeah.
It's a national concern.
Exactly. Think about everything we depend on electricity for.
Yeah.
Communication, transportation, healthcare, entertainment.
It's everything.
It is.
It really is.
A reliable and modern power grid is the backbone of our modern society. And as we move toward a cleaner energy future, that grid becomes even more crucial.
It's like the central nervous system of the country.
Yeah, I like that.
Keeping everything connected and running smoothly.
It is. It's a great analogy.
But on a more personal level, how will these changes actually impact people's daily lives?
Right.
What kind of differences can they expect to see?
Well, for starters, they can expect fewer power outages.
Okay.
Those upgrades to reliability and resilience mean the lights are more likely to stay on.
Okay.
Even during storms or other disruptions.
So less stress, fewer disruptions.
Exactly. Less frustration, less inconvenience, and more peace of mind.
So no more scrambling for candles during a thunderstorm.
Hopefully not, no.
That's a definite plus. Anything else?
Yeah, beyond fewer outages, you might also see an improvement in power quality.
Okay.
Remember we talked about voltage regulation?
Yes.
Well, those upgrades help keep the flow of electricity stable.
Okay.
Which means you'll see fewer flickering lights, fewer issues with those sensitive electronic devices,
Right.
and it could even mean a longer lifespan for your appliances.
So not only will we have power more often,
Right.
but it'll also be better quality power. That's good news for my gadgets.
Yeah. And, over time, as these improvements create a more efficient grid, there's a good chance energy costs could even go down.
Okay.
Less wasted energy equals lower bills?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, a $1.5 billion investment in the grid.
Right.
That sounds like it might come with a pretty hefty price tag for consumers.
Yeah.
Are there any concerns about how this might impact electricity rates?
It's a valid concern, definitely.
Yeah.
Large infrastructure projects like this, they often involve some upfront costs. And yeah, there might be some adjustments to electricity rates.
Okay.
But here's the thing, it's important to think long term.
Okay.
These upgrades are designed to make the grid more efficient,
Right.
reliable, and resilient.
So those improvements could actually lead to lower costs down the road.
Exactly. Offset any initial increases.
So it's like investing in a more fuel-efficient car.
Yeah.
It might cost more upfront, but you save money on gas in the long run.
That's a great analogy. And in this case, the fuel is cleaner and more sustainable, which benefits everyone.
Okay, so we've established that Pennsylvania's grid modernization plan is a big deal.
It is.
But what about the rest of the country?
Right.
Will other states follow their lead?
It's definitely possible.
Yeah.
The federal government is already offering incentives and funding
Okay.
to encourage these grid modernization projects nationwide.
So Pennsylvania might be a trailblazer, but it
Yeah.
sounds like the whole country is starting to recognize how important this is.
Yeah, they are.
Upgrading our energy infrastructure.
Exactly. And as these modernization efforts pick up speed, it will be interesting to see how they shape the energy landscape in the coming years.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into the world of power grids.
It has.
We've covered a lot, from the technical details of automated reclosers to the broader implications for a cleaner energy future.
Definitely.
But before we wrap things up, I'd love to get your thoughts on how these changes will actually impact people's everyday lives.
Sure.
What are some specific ways that Pennsylvanians might actually experience the benefits of this grid upgrade?
So we've talked about the big impact, on the whole system.
Right, the big picture.
Yeah, but what does it actually mean for people, in their everyday lives?
Yeah. What are people in Pennsylvania going to notice?
Think about this. You're at home working on something important.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe you're right in the middle of baking something and the power goes out.
Ugh, the worst.
Right. Super frustrating.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Well, with these upgrades, that should happen a lot less.
Really?
The grid's going to be more reliable, more resilient, so the lights are more likely to stay on.
Even during storms and stuff.
Yeah, even during storms or, any kind of unexpected event.
So less stress, fewer interruptions. That's got to be good for everyone.
Exactly. Less frustration, less inconvenience, more peace of mind.
I like the sound of that. More peace of mind.
Right. And beyond just keeping the lights on,
Yeah.
you'll probably notice that the power quality is better too.
Oh, right. We were talking about voltage regulation.
Exactly. Those upgrades help keep the electricity flowing smoothly.
Okay.
So fewer flickering lights, fewer problems with your electronics and your appliances might even last longer.
So it's not just about having power, it's about having good power.
Exactly. Reliable, consistent power that you can depend on.
That's a good point because we rely on our devices for so much these days.
We do. It's how we work, how we stay connected, how we entertain ourselves.
Yeah, it's everything.
It really is.
So those improvements are going to make a big difference for a lot of people.
Absolutely. And there's even more to it than that.
Okay, what else?
As the grid gets modernized, it can handle more renewable energy.
Right.
So we could start to see a real shift towards cleaner sources of power, which means less pollution, fewer carbon emissions.
So it's not just about keeping the lights on today, it's about building a cleaner future.
Exactly. A more sustainable energy system for everyone.
That's pretty exciting.
It is. And there's a chance that as we rely more on those renewable sources, the cost of electricity could actually go down.
Really?
Yeah, it's possible because renewable energy can be really cost effective once you've got the infrastructure in place.
So it's a win for the environment and a win for our wallets.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a win-win.
I like the sound of that.
I think Pennsylvania's investment in their power grid is a really smart move.
Yeah,
It shows that they're thinking ahead, they're taking action to create a better future.
I agree. It's a great example for other states to follow.
Absolutely. I think we're going to see more and more of this happening across the country.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time to be talking about energy.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into the world of power grids.
It has been fun talking about this.
We've learned a lot from the technical details to the bigger picture and the impact on people's lives.
Absolutely a lot to think about.
Yeah, and as we wrap up, I'd like to leave our listeners with a question. As these grid modernization efforts continue, what new possibilities do you think will emerge? How could a smarter, more adaptable grid change the way we live and work and interact with the world? And what role might each of us play in this evolving energy landscape? It's something to think about.
It is a lot of exciting possibilities.
Yeah, thanks for joining us on this electrifying journey.
Yeah, this is great.
Until next time, keep those brain cells buzzing.